Okay, so something big dropped just off screen. So if you just dropped something big, or if you have your camera turned off, now is a great time to turn it on. And then yeah. So I
Sure. Maybe you shouldn't have said that.
I haven't seen all of you in a while, so I'm really glad to be back. Really glad to see all of you here, and I'm in particular happy to see Helge on camera, because Helge, we've been communicating through chat a couple of times, and he has been a regular in the Edge delivery services for Adobe Experience Manager sites as a cloud service with document-based editing community. And on top of that, I'm joined here in person in Berlin by Markus and Karl, and yep, that's giving our setup away. So and we're here to talk about the launch, and I think the best way to do this would be, Helge, if you could share your screen and we look at the website, because that's typically the best starting point, and then you can then you can tell us a bit about.
Let's actually see if I can share. Maybe I have to restart.
Yep. Yeah.
Discord. Yeah. BRB.
I just realized that while Helge is giving macOS, or telling macOS to give Discord permissions to record the screen and restarting Discord, we are waiting for him to come back, and that's actually a good thing, because you see that we don't have a lot of repeating presenters here. It's always new presenters that always have to go through the setup another time. Yeah.
In the meantime, I guess if you wanted to, we could start. Maybe, I don't know if everybody is aware what Crosswalk in this incarnation is, or what it means. So I don't know, maybe you wanted to say a couple of generic words, Markus, first.
Yeah, I can do. So I'm not sure if this is repeating, but for the folks here which don't know what Project Crosswalk is, I think the public official name is AEM Edge Delivery Services. Oh no, I'm stuck, you need to help me. AEM Edge Delivery Service for AEM Cloud Service with AEM offering. So basically it's about connecting AEM offer environment to Edge Delivery Services, and with
So
okay, I'll just go.
Yeah, thanks for your patience. And of course, Discord wanted to make some updates. Alrighty. So yeah, let me quickly share my screen and then briefly. Let's see. Does this work? You can see the screen?
1 second.
No.
Not yet.
No.
I think you have to do it again. I think
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, I see a watch stream.
Yep, I see it.
perfect.
Okay, so you good?
Yes.
Let me put you on that side.
Ooh.
Cool.
Yep.
So yeah, to give you a quick introduction, first of all, to who I am and why we're having this call. So I am Helge. I'm a senior IT consultant at Comwrap, and we are a platinum partner for Adobe, specialized in AEM and commerce. And so we have our website comwrap.com, and we always had the website's blog on there as well. And since I don't know actually who introduced, I think it was Thomas Krehl, if I'm not mistaken, introduced one of my colleagues, Martin, to Crosswalk, and we were all ears in regards to how can we integrate actually AEM with actual delivery services. And this was actually pretty interesting because we have started already trying to migrate our blog to the document-based editing, but we ran into some hiccups here and there, meaning like first of all we had to use Google Drive because from our Office SharePoint policy we are not allowed to invite external members, meaning external bots are also not available and we cannot invite those, so we had to switch to Google Drive. And since we had no G Suite account, we had to share the account, and like it was a mess because someone as the account owner gets a notification via phone, hey, this is your access code, you can log in now, and like sharing accounts this way really was cumbersome. So but we started, and then in the meantime we heard about, hey, there is this nice Crosswalk functionality that we are working on, meaning that we are having the content that is within AEM, and we are serving this basically through a different rendering pipeline and the edge delivery service. Are you interested? And so we were definitely interested, and so we had our quick introduction to the team where we were introduced how the setup's actually working, how the systems are connected to each other, how is everything handled. And with a disclaimer back then, like this was beginning of the year, like in December is where we first met, was that everything was a little bit rough on the edges back then. So we were also kind of a guinea pig, and we were able to provide valuable information from I think outside the Adobe company, like on a real implementation. And the special thing in this constellation in regards to us working in conjunction with you guys from Adobe, we wanted to make sure that we own the solution. We own the implementation because we want to provide the best possible consultancy to our clients if this is the correct case, how to do stuff and who should do stuff, and how can we make sure that they own in the end the code. And back then it was all in the VIP program, meaning that usually you are in the driving seat, but in this case you made the exception, and it was really grateful that we were in the what needs to be done to, for example, attach the pipeline project plan that we had. And so to give you a quick overview of what we have done and what we have built is oh, I got an echo. So we have this tightly neat block, really not that complicated in of itself, but it serves its purpose, meaning that we have different tags in here for how you can categorize your articles, and of course you can select multiple ones, and then you have your details where we show the individual category of the blog post itself, who wrote this article with the cursor component, and here, for example, from the related articles or recent articles, they are connected based on the tags, and tags are matching, we show these. And this is the playing area where we work with Crosswalk, so we had everything already set up within AEM, everything was live already, and so we had no particular time pressure on that regard. And then we started building, so to speak. Like we had our internal call with the Slack team, and basically you guys from Adobe Engineering let us do our stuff, and it was great. And like when we had some questions, we pinged you. And so maybe I don't know. I haven't prepped any particular talk track in here, but I think it would be wise in this regard to since I think the last session about Crosswalk was a little bit ago, that you could enlighten us a little bit again. How is actually the connectivity done between the aem author environment and the in the end new publish environment? Like it's not aem publish more anymore, like aem sites publish, right? So
Helge,
maybe
before we dive into the architecture, and I know that Markus has prepared something, I think it would be cool if you could show what this blog post looks like for an author, and what the authoring process looks like.
Yeah, absolutely, great point. So let me bring this up quickly on our product environment, where we currently have everything synced. So from the editor point of view, this is normal aem sites as you know it. Like for example, if I'm opening this article here, nothing in regards to this has changed, right? So we had this in place. We were using most of the time core components with some custom components here and there, for example, to provide a simple tag that you can click on. And yeah, so the title components, we have our avatar component, which fetches the editor from a content fragment. So this information here is stored in a content fragment. And yeah, we have our text components, our teaser components, and stuff like this, image, yada yada yada. Really, like we focused on that our website, Comwrap.com, is mostly built out of core components or derivatives of core components. And the beauty of this is that our editors who are writing these blog posts are not necessarily the ones that are have a technical understanding of how these components are actually working and what they need to watch out for. So it's a similar case, and why you came up with doc-based editing, I'm supposed, because it's the ease of use for non-technical people. And the core components in this regard served us very well. And they still do, and again, just the rendering under the hood, like the published side, has changed. So from an editor point of view, nothing has changed. If you view as published, you still see the page on aem sites. This has nothing to do with edge delivery services yet. So everything you see here is still coming as if it's from the author, and it's not from the published side. But as soon as you switch back to the article itself, and it pretty much looks one-to-one the same, except for some adjustments here and there. This is now all served from edge delivery services.
Okay, very cool.
Sorry, one question from me. It's Phil here from Comwrap as well. You mentioned that you use only the core components. Yeah. So in the router. But what about if you pull or push some? I can see text here on image. So what about if you put carousel on anything core component? But obviously this is that also supported in the EDS?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, which also ties into how does the connectivity actually work, right? So there's the thing called transformer, but I can briefly explain how this works on a high level, or not actually on a high level, on a technical level. But do you have some high level slides for this that might showcase this?
I prepared something. So the short answer to the question is yes. The mapping happens actually on the page level. So what is rendered on the page, and it's independent from the component used in today's aem author website. It can be core components, it can be custom components, it can be anything. Since it's agnostic from how the page itself is constructed and rendered. But I have a diagram later that shows the flow. So if you can table the second part of the answer, then Helge can finish the offering demo and then we can switch.
Yep.
Yeah. So to give you a good understanding on how this works, actually let me go into the staging side. We have not set up any domain for the staging environment, so bear with me while I'm doing this, but so let's pick a random article that we have just to demonstrate how this works. So let me actually pick one of mine articles here. So the question basically was, how does this work with the core components and edge delivery services in conjunction? So let's say I'm adding this carousel component in here. Real quick to demonstrate how this works. Let's slot in like 2 images. This one and another image. And now it already has the image because it's from the. Let's use this one then. Come on. Sometimes this is a little bit funky. Let me go this way. Okay, now if I view this as published, we should have this carousel here that has 2 images in it, and we can now publish this particular page here on the staging environment. What is happening under the hood is that now, and Markus, maybe you can correct me if I'm saying wrong stuff here, but basically what is happening under the hood is that there's a distribution agent running in the background that picks up the publish event basically and pushes the contents to a serverless function running on Adobe I/O runtime, and the I/O runtime pulls in the content from the author. So these are connected. The serverless function has a direct connection to the author environment, parses the markup of the author environment, and basically transforms the markup into what we understand as some predefined markup that we can work with, which is then transformed into Markdown, at some stage pushed to the content bus, and in the end transformed back into HTML via the Edge Delivery Services content renderer.
That's correct. Good summary.
Thank you. So, and now this should be done. And if I go to the publish environment, again, we don't have a particular domain for this. We should see that the carousel now is included here as well, and that it is interactive with the 2 images. It has a different styling because this now fits a little bit better to what we have expected from the implementation throughout the block. But this is basically how it's done.
Can I add something here for the people listening and watching carefully? Don't get confused by the URL. As Helge said, there is no domain setup. So this looks like a classic aem publish instance URL. But actually what it happens, it goes to the aem fastly CDN from cloud service. And on the CDN, there is rerouting to edge delivery for pages which are configured for each project. And in case of Helge, it's the blog pages. So don't get confused. The URL looks like an aem publish, but actually it's not an aem publish.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. And this is something that I really, really love, is that we can have best of both worlds, meaning that we have still our normal pages served from AEM under the same origin, in this case from the publish environment, but at the same time, the edge delivery stuff coming from a completely different pipeline or renderer, but it's still served under the same origin. And this is all through Fastly CDN via a config pipeline, which I think is GA now, right?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So that's basically how it works, and yeah, it has some really cool stuff, but it's not all super shiny, I have to admit. Like, there are some things that are not, in this case, in this intermediate state with the Crosswalk implementation, are not ideal in my opinion. But I don't know if I should already start giving some little bit of negative experiences that we had during our implementation, or if we want to keep this for a little bit later. But yeah.
So last one, sorry. So this component you created, this is basically coming from the blog or OMEDS. This is not a EM carousel component.
It is to some extent, right? So the configuration and the initial rendering of the markup is coming from the core component carousel. What we are doing, and I can quickly go in here, I have this actually prepped, is we have in our tools, we have our importer, and we have different transformers. And in this case, we had a look at the carousel transformer. And is this big enough? Should I zoom in?
One zoom step would be nice.
I give you two.
Thank you.
So what we have is basically this transformer is being invoked as a pipeline, and all the individual transformer components, let's call it like this, are in here. And so they are scoped by classes, right? So they are doing their stuff, they are scanning the markup that is coming from the author environment for this particular page where the publish event was submitted to, and they transform the markup to a markup that is understandable by edge delivery services, because the content bus can only consume content, and now this is in a gray zone, but this is how I understood it, can only consume content in a particular structure, meaning it cannot be deeply nested tables in this regard, but rather we only support flat tables with multiple columns, but not tables within tables, for example.
Yep.
Correct. So the input format is basically equal to the output format. Sorry for the noise outside here. And the output format is what we call semantic HTML. When you publish, actually it does a little bit of cleanup, and if you're not meeting the specs 100%, it's tolerant, but it's basically what we expect as a generic format for bring your own markup.
The semantic HTML is also documented on the aem page, so all the end of the markup.
Yeah. But if you work with HTML and just do view stores in any random project, you can see how this is structured.
Exactly.
So you created basically a copy of AEM component to fit to Edge delivery service.
Yes. I created first. I created a transformer that transforms the markup into a parsable way for to be transformed into Markdown, which is then annotated and stuff, and then put back into semantic HTML.
Markup or HTML that's produced from aem-author?
An implementation for the block that gets created here, which then is
To give you on the one side the full picture, on the second, and also to fully confuse you, no, not really. There are actually two implementation patterns of Crosswalk. The one which Helge used is mostly suited for customers which have an existing AEM site already in place, which was the case for Comwrap site before. There's a second approach which we actually recommend mostly for projects either starting from scratch or you build a new microsite next to your existing AEM site and you're not migrating it. There's an approach which we is a little bit simpler, requires less custom code, and especially it doesn't require a transformer, and it doesn't require any existing AEM component. But if you have an existing project, like we have in this current situation, this is an approach you can do as well.
This is just for the universal editor, no?
Yeah.
The second one you mentioned.
the explanation slide here, because I think
So I wanted to make let Helge finish, but we can switch back and forth. Helge has to go.
Yeah, I think that's a particular good idea because this ties into one of the points, meaning that the implementation that we have done with the Crosswalk implementation in regards to that we already have a site published, and we wanted to keep the content within AEM but change the rendering pipeline under the hood, is working fine, but only to an extent that if you say that, hey, let's not particularly develop new components all over the place, because you would need to do a lot of overhead in this regard, because you are still supporting the old editor, meaning all within AEM sites, and ideally you don't want to do this work twice. Meaning, ideally, our next step is to not do everything twice, is that we change the editor on the author environment as well to universal editor. So,
You want to have something to show, or should I go to the diagram first, maybe?
Yeah, let's look at the architecture.
I mean, I can. Yeah, let's quickly wrap this component up. I think that's, and then we have a finished story in this regard. So we have our transformer that transforms the carousel markup. How I pipe it into the content bus, and in the end, what I'm doing here is fairly simple. I'm creating a table title in this regard, in regards to the component or block. In this case, is called carousel. And it only holds the images as individual rows in this regard. So rows, and that's basically it. It also includes the span tag for the caption of the image. And this is the markup that I'm transferring to. And for the individual implementation itself, it's all then a normal block that you start with the decorate function, and then I'm parsing my markup and doing all the necessary stuff, adding the interactivity, meaning adding the dots, adding the arrows to switch the slides. All this is done then on the client side, and in this case it's done via solid, very sleek, fine framework that allows me to write a little bit easier markup in this regard. And as this is not particularly crucial for the LCP, not just colorful paint, I'm totally fine getting away with this, that the carousel interactivity only loads in like 0.3 seconds later. So
Okay.
this is the full round in the end how the carousel component is would be rendered to the screen.
Excellent.
Okay. So I think you can take over the screen.
Yep.
Yep. And you see my browser?
Yep, but it would help if you would zoom in a bit for...
Yeah. I'll do in a second. So this is a diagram I actually created for the Comwrap project. And I zoom in a second just to show you the full picture. It has basically two areas. It has a board version and it has a stage version or stage/dev. It's ultimately just a duplication. And this is what we, I think, quickly chatted about at the beginning before the recording, that in the future this maybe gets easier with less repos. And if we zoom in, let's go from top to bottom, and I only show the board version. So we have users, as I said, the split happens on the cloud service CDN of aem cloud service, and the partially few pages are still routed as usual or as in any other project to aem publish, and they will continue working without any change. And based on the project config, for each and every customer, the requests can be routed to edge delivery. And that means in the CDN there's a config which you control, and you can publish via Cloud Manager config pipeline. There you define the routing to edge delivery, and then it goes to your live URL, so Helix Live of your project. And from here, it's rendering. For the rendering and the delivery part, this is like any other project as well. And if Helge can show later maybe the full Git repo, you will see blocks, script shares, styles like in any other project. I cannot show this because the project is private, but Helge can maybe show if you want. Nothing special so far. The special part when Crosswalk comes into the picture is only for the authoring and the publishing. And for that, I start from the end and from the button and go upwards. So we have the author environment as it is seen by Helge, and you edit your page like normal. Nothing changes here. As we said, you can continue in this pattern with the conversion. You can continue to use the aem components you have, and you continue to use the editor you have. If you go the universal editor route, I have a second diagram. It looks slightly different, but not much. And in case an author user hits publish, what happens is aem sends a publish event to the pipeline. And this is the same publish event it's sent to all your aem classic aem publish instances, and the same publish event is also captured from the queue via a so-called subscriber or cross-walk handler. And this event handler gets the publish event, it extracts all the paths which you intend to publish, and then it calls the Helix/Franklin admin API to do the magic. And this is basically, once you call this API, it's very similar flow like it is for SharePoint and Google as well. Right. Helix admin reads the project config. It figures out this is a project configured for bring your own markup. So it reads the endpoint, and the endpoint points, in this case, to a IO runtime function. And then Helix admin calls this IO runtime function plus add the path which should be published at the end. And then the function knows how to authenticate back to the aem author, knows how to translate the internal to the external path, because likely you, for example, all your aem content starts with content/something, which you don't expose publicly, so it now does this translation and calls the aem author back to get the content from aem. It does the conversion with your project-specific code, like the one we showed Helge showed for the carousel. This is the only custom code here in this conversion part. And then the published page gets converted to HTML by the converter. It's sent back to the Helix admin, and then it's injected to our Cloud Edge storage internal. As you all know, it's Markdown, but that's just in detail, but it's stored there. And then once it's in Markdown, in the content storage or in the content bus, it's like any other page coming from any other content source as well. And then it is delivered. This is how the flow works. For the project Helge is working or worked on or still works on. Any questions on this one? Silence.
Okay. I think everyone is holding their breath for Helge to share his feedback.
Yeah, so let me add them. I'm actually still sharing.
Yep,
so
you're
this is
still
not
sharing, so we can
Teams.
switch over. Thanks, Markus.
Yeah, there are actually a couple of lessons learned in regards to doing this implementation, and some were a little bit surprising, and some were like really interesting in regards to how does the web actually work in terms of what is performant and what isn't performant. But one thing that I would like to highlight here is I mentioned in the start that our editors that we see here are content fragments under the hood stored within in aem. And what I wasn't aware of and what a little bit caught me off guard, but is that you cannot store JSON in the content bus. Right? So we had the particular interesting setup that how are we getting the author information into our custom query that we are writing to fetch the information at runtime. Meaning that if I'm inspecting a particular post here, and you can see in the network tab, that when I reload this, and I'm still, let me actually go to fast 3G, and so we are pulling in the this called the author's JSON, where everything about the particular author, name, image, position, working title is stored. And this was an interesting challenge because again, when you're publishing something on the environment and you're publishing a content fragment, this content fragment is not getting indexed by default, meaning that we had to first create let's say a temporary HTML page by changing the content type and creating dummy markup, which is then pushed to the content bus so it can get indexed by the indexer to create this particular index for us so we can consume it headlessly or RESTful in this regard. So that was an interesting case, and I wouldn't have expected that it works like this. But I think we can even take a look quickly at the indexer. This is appending.html, and so yeah, this is the patch content function that we're doing, that we're basically interjecting here. If it's not anything related to a content fragment, we just invoke the normal function. But if it's related to a content fragment, we are getting our stuff, and then we are rendering this temporary page, which basically only holds an h1, h2, and an image resource for the editor. And this is what we then are pushing back into the pipeline to create this temporary page. So in theory, you are able to view an HTML page under this particular route, or maybe it's mapped, to view the content fragment as a HTML page instead of a JSON representation, which was interesting. And I don't know if this is if there are any plans to change this for the future, but yeah, so basically for content fragments, you have to create your own temporary page to get it indexed. Or use, of course, GraphQL from the author environment or from a publish environment. But in this case, we wanted to have everything on the served via Edge delivery.
I can quickly comment on this. It has changed, at least. It has changed, where you can now publish JSON but I guess it's not fulfilling the use case you have Helge here because you publish JSON as one large JSON. So if assuming all your offers would be in one content fragment, then you can publish them as a long form, whatever JSON format. That would also work. But if you have thousands of offers, that would mean you get 1,000 JSON documents. That would also possible. I'm not sure if would fit the use case, but it's possible now.
Ah, yeah, interesting. So meaning that, yeah, I mean, the big use case for us was to create this index. In this case, the author API, which should index everything below this particular path. And as far as I am aware of, that the indexer can only index HTML pages and not JSON or directly self-JSON yet.
In your case, if you publish individual JSON files for each and every offer, then you would not be able to index them.
Yeah, so that's definitely a lesson learned, but with the help of the Adobe engineering team, and I want to give again a shout out to Andre, as he was really supportive. Yeah, we were able to manage this hurdle in that regard. The other part I already mentioned. We are currently in a weird state that we can create new pages, we can publish new pages, but we cannot, for example, create new components and use those components on the blog without doing work twice. This is mainly related to the fact that we still want to support the WYSIWYG editing experience for the authors on the aem side, or aem sites side, but to my understanding, this will be solved if we make the switch to Universal Editor, which will be the following step coming in the next, until the end of the year. If I'm not mistaken, this was our rough roadmap that we have internally. So, that was definitely also some interesting stuff. Then, another part was, of course, that we wanted to blow the performance out of the window on getting the perfect 100 score. And when we are going to our blog page here, our index page, so to speak, this particular page used to, and it still does for the German version, let me actually go to the German version of the published site, used to look like this. So only our blog overview component that we have here that loads all the individual blog posts from an index. And as this was our main entry, there's nothing else to render except for this particular, this single empty div blog post, which basically just functions as a mounting point. And it turned out that getting all the information from the blog post API, rendering, and then displaying everything to please Google Lighthouse to have us a perfect 100 score. It's really not consistent to get 100, and this is all due to the fact that fetching the JSON, loading the block from the network, and actually let me actually do this in a performance steps. Give me a second, I think that's better. Let me performance reload. So what we're doing here is, when this page loads, is that the initial aem scripts are loaded, and also the styles. And in this case, we are using Tailwind. That's where the Art CSS is coming from. And then the scripts is parsing the individual blocks that are on the page. And in this case, it's the blog post. So we are then loading the blog post, which loads in this case, the framework itself, but also the JSON, and then it's all in the end rendering, having the fonts here as well. And this is the classical waterfall that we have here, and we tried our best to push everything a little bit further upwards, but in the end, only 90 out of 100, and this caused a little bit of frustration. But the only way to have this being consistent 100 is that you have to have the initial ALCP markup directly served from the initial doc. And that's what we have changed then for the English version. And that is that we have introduced this simple intro text here with the headline. And if you go, this classifies as LCP, which is served from the doc itself. It's not served from an API. So it's rendered instantly, and the Lighthouse bot was pleased with giving us the 100 performance score in this regard. So this is basically how we tricked Lighthouse in Crosswalk airports, tricked Lighthouse to have our artificial 100. I mean, in the end, for the end user, it really doesn't matter. He won't notice any difference, but this was just for us to achieve the 100 because it's not something that is related to the implementation itself of the solution, but rather interesting case that we have here, that nothing else is rendered on the page except for this empty div. And yeah, this was also very interesting. I mean, we tried a lot of stuff. We made sure that even our first image that from the blog post is loaded eager and the rest is loaded lazily, and all the stuff we tried hard, but it boiled down to not having the content and literally on the page load in the initial doc cost us the one point of performance. But now with this text block, that's solved.
Okay, Helge, thank you very much. I have to do a bit of timekeeping here. I just want to make sure that we have time for maybe one or two questions, if there are.
There is one question.
Yep.
I can ask. Here. I want to ask, so this is a solution for on-prem or managed service, or just as service? And the question is, if the user on a premise or with managed services can use this solution?
No. So this is at the moment aem cloud service only.
Okay. Also not via the API, something like this. There's no trick.
Because the way how the application works is different between cloud service and on-prem, and the other reason is for the recommended approach using the universal editor. That's basically the demo I did last time. The universal editor is also currently cloud service only.
Yeah, that's planned. Is there any solution planned for this users that are not involved or included?
I'm not aware of. So I think we have discussions internally, which I comment on. Can comment on. It's mostly for AMS customers, and there's a migration plan currently sketched out. For self-hosted 6.5, 6.4 deployments, there's no plan.
Okay.
And one additional question. You, for every user, is actually getting the JSON, and you rendering the page. And why did you publish the page or created a page, for example? Because this page only changed when a new blog is posted or updated or etc.
Yeah, interesting point. So basically, I had the same idea, and I had to circle back because this is against the philosophy of Edge Delivery Services, meaning that Edge Delivery Services values the cache like nothing else. Like the cache is the very first thing that Edge Delivery Services where you should care about. meaning that if you make a change, you should purge as little cache as possible in this regard. So if you would, for example, the idea was, why aren't we creating in quotes a component that holds all the individual pages already in here, and if you publish a page, you have to basically invoke a cache purge, and you have to understand that basically every list that is not generated through the index is quote-unquote hand maintained. Meaning that if we would need to, for example, add a new blog post, if we publish a new blog post, we would need to go into not only publishing the blog post itself, but rather going into the overview page here as well, and adding this individual new blog post to the component and publish that page again, which could solve the issue, but this doesn't scale. That's on a bigger scale. In this case, it might still be okay, but in the end, this is not the experience that we want to work with on a higher scale, especially not if you have multiple pages that are referencing the same content. Like this is like one of the advantages of Edge Delivery Service in that regard, that you're working with this query or index query that only this index query is being purged from the cache and all the rest is not being purged. What you would do to what others are doing, in this case, the design basically says you cannot achieve 100 out of the gate. The design, what you would usually have is that you have some highlight blog article at the very top that is handpicked, that has this, that has a preview image and everything. Maybe it's even 3 or 4 per category. Then everything is fine then in that regard.
Helge and Dejan, I'm so sorry to have to interrupt, but I need to stop the recording now. Of course, as always, feel free to hang out after this. First of all, I want to thank you for joining us today, for presenting, for sharing your solution, for sharing the challenges that you ran into, and I hope to see many more sites from you going forward in the future. And really appreciate your effort to getting to the 100, even if it takes some stretching sometime. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.